On November 29, 1973, at approximately 1:15 p.m. in downtown Kumamoto, a catastrophic fire broke out at the Taio department store. It raged for 8 hours, eventually being extinguished at 9:19 p.m. In this time, 104 people died and a further 126 were injured. Yet, if you go downtown today, there's absolutely no trace of the catastrophic disaster. Another looming department store stands a mere 2-minute walk away, and the actual site of the disaster is occupied by a new shopping mall called Cocosa. I've lived in Kumamoto City for over a year now, and I truly had no idea about this tragedy until today. Today, I'm going to talk about the Taio department store fire, and how incompetence, rigid power structures, and corporate greed doomed over 100 people to an early grave. It was afternoon on a Thursday, and the Taio department store was the most popular department store in Kumamoto City. 1,116 people were inside the building that day, with little less than half of them being store employees. The exact cause of the fire isn't known, but on the second floor, large amounts of bedding and clothing were piled up on the stairwell. According to a report, the stairwell was being used as a display for various bedding and associated goods. Store staff report that smoke started from a cardboard box, but unfortunately, all fabric is incredibly flammable, and all the linens close to the source of the fire burst into flames immediately. Without the effect of tinder, the fire that started on the second floor landing eventually spread upstairs to the sales floor on the third floor. The initial response of employees was lackluster, to say the least. A part-time employee noticed the fire first, and ended up informing 2 other employees, who then informed the section chief. The section chief then tried to suppress the fire by using a hand-pumped hose, but the water pressure was too low and that didn't work. A fire extinguisher was there, but no one knew how to use it. They finally ended up pushing the button for the fire shutter, and it didn't work. After pushing it a second time, misfortune struck again. The clothes and bedding were placed both in front of and behind fire shutters, and when they tried to shut the fire shutter, a futon ended up blocking the door from closing properly, allowing the fire to spread rapidly. In fact, only 7 out of the 23 fire shutters in the entire building even worked properly in the first place. All the side exit doors next to the fire shutters were locked for security reasons, rendering them entirely useless as a means of escape. The employees of the building ended up trying to get the telephone operator for the building to call 119, but the operator forwarded the call to the building chief, who then said he dialed 119, but the call did not go through and no such record of any call was ever found. 2 construction workers who were painting the outside of the building suddenly heard a crash. A 50-centimeter flame had burst out of the third-floor window, breaking the glass with it. White smoke poured out, and they tried to alert others, but unfortunately, word of mouth can only spread so fast. The one who made the 119 call that alerted authorities ended up being the owner of a barbershop across the street. The people on the first and second floor tried all they could, with passers-by climbing the blazing stairwell, forming a human relay and pouring buckets of water over the fire. But it was too little too late. To alert the shoppers and employees inside the store, the natural thing to do would be to use the in-store PA system. But using the system required the permission of a superior who was nowhere to be found. The PA system was not locked. It was available to use, but the employees were too afraid of reprimand to actually use it. The telephone operator could view what was happening through cameras, but, unable to use the PA, simply escaped by using an elevator with other employees. Now you say, what about the automatic fire detection system and the fire alarms? Well, they were entirely disabled due to ongoing construction in the building. It's undoubtable that a lack of announcement cost lives that day. Every single person in there was no better than a sitting duck. With everyone else on other floors entirely unaware of the fire, they were blindsided as the fire raced through the unclosed fire doors and shutters in the stairwell, which also ignited the escalator and spread rapidly to upper floors. The fire even raced through the pipes itself, reaching as far as the 9th floor in no time. Most casualties were found unsurprisingly on the upper floors. Many people escaped to the rooftop using an elevator, which was mildly surprising to me, as in Canada we're taught to never ever use an elevator under any circumstances during a fire. Unfortunately, the burning of fabric produces a staggeringly large amount of carbon dioxide and black smoke. There was no ambient lighting, and the power inside quickly ran out. The air inside the rooms quickly grew hazy, and with every single window in the building being boarded up for some godforsaken reason, the thick smog accumulated rapidly. There was no smoke-proof system, even though it was recommended by the fire department, in the stairwell itself, turning it into a chimney, allowing smoke and heat to rapidly rise. The New York Times report from 1972 tells the story of Koga, who said as follows: The lights went out, and black smoke poured through the building. I crawled along the floor, heading for the roof, but I had great difficulty breathing. Then, I found a goldfish counter near the 8th floor, and I dipped a towel into the water to keep the smoke and gas out of my lungs. Without that, I might have collapsed. Most people died of carbon monoxide poisoning or smoke inhalation, with only 3 or 4, sources vary, dying of burns themselves. In total, 48 customers, 52 employees, and 3 construction workers perished in the blaze. 1 man perished after the detailed government report was written, and he died of a brain lesion caused by carbon monoxide poisoning, bringing the total death count to 104. On the 3rd floor, 3 people perished in front of the stairs, trapped while running away from the source of the fire. Some tried to flee, but the stairs themselves actually acted as an oven, literally baking those that attempted. Some were further trapped by temporary construction walls. The 4th floor had the most deaths, with 40 people succumbing to the blaze. 1 person died on the 5th floor, once again trapped in the stairs while running away from the 3rd floor. On the 6th floor, even more attempted to flee using the stairs, with 3 different sets of stairwells claiming the lives of 31 people. On the 7th floor, there was a restaurant and a large private event. There were so many people that a small crowd crush occurred, leading to 24 people meeting their end in front of the stairwell A. Some others were running away from a special exhibition, which had also caught fire. All in all, 29 lives were lost on the 7th floor. On the 8th floor, right before the roof, the last person waiting to be rescued eventually perished from smoke inhalation. 24 of the victims died less than 90 meters away from rescue. 60 employees and around 70 customers were evacuated to the roof. 67 people were rescued by fire truck, and 25 climbed down from the construction scaffolding. 10 others jumped onto the roof of the nearby Shimatori shopping arcade, injuring themselves in the process but nevertheless escaping the blaze. After some 10 hours fighting the blaze and searching for bodies, a fireman, Kumamoto Hashimoto, who was 23, took his first break only to be told that his wife, 4-month-old baby, son, and mother-in-law had all perished in the fire. A 22-year-old university student, Masatoshi Tsuruya, spoke of how he was almost overtaken by smoke and watched people tumbling down the stairway like it was an avalanche. Interestingly, Tsuruya is the name of the only department store in Kumamoto today, though I could find no relation. A waitress, Junko Nagai, described the building as an inferno, full of the cries of fleeing mothers and children. This building had been under construction for years, yet in all of that time, no one had bothered to implement the most basic of safety measures. Locked up escapes, boarded up windows, and a non-functioning fire system. This was all literally bound to happen. It's a small blessing that it didn't occur during a holiday or a weekend, when the store would have undoubtedly been much more crowded. I should note that in the government report, there is a note that says, suspected arson, though the report is quite old. If it was, who knows if it was an employee or a customer, and who knows if they perished that day, or if they survived the blaze. If they survived, I hope that the weight of all those lives lost follows them for the rest of their lives. Store management was flippantly unconcerned about fire prevention. They were repeatedly warned by the fire department many times that their building was catastrophically unsafe, and yet no action was ever taken. Maintenance of fire equipment was not kept. No fire defense plan was ever made, and the store had never even completed a single fire drill. The rigid protocol of consulting a supervisor for everything also undoubtedly hampered efforts to contain the fire. People had to consult supervisors who then had to contact their supervisors, and so on. The misplaced prioritization of procedure over human lives, especially when it came to the mishandling of the whole PA situation, utterly astounds me. This fire is widely regarded as one of the most catastrophic building fires in the history of Japan. The public outrage that followed this disaster eventually helped pass the Construction Standards Law and the Fire Service Law, mandating sprinklers, exterior stairs, and firefighting equipment to be available in every building, including old buildings that didn't previously meet the standards and were grandfathered in. The president of the department store was eventually put on trial. He was found guilty of negligent manslaughter, but maddeningly, by the time the trial had finished, he had already died, as had the managing director, and as such, no one was held responsible for all these people's deaths. The building was demolished in 2013. Now, a new mall, Cocosa, stands in its place. It's commonly used as a meeting spot for people on first dates, speaking from experience, and it's incredibly popular with young people. There is apparently a small memorial tucked away on the first floor, but I searched for 30 minutes and I could not find it. Another larger monument, built by the victims' families, rests on the banks of the Shirakawa River. I wonder how many people pass by this spot every day and are entirely unaware of its history. Every year on November 29th, the city now conducts fire drills. I also had to do such a fire drill. Everybody knew that it was Fire Prevention Day, but I don't think a single soul could tell me why. It's important to educate ourselves on things that happened in the past, so we don't make the same mistakes in the future.